What's happening, everyone? James Lynch here. Got to react to the UFC 311 main event, which is now Islam Makhachev and Arman Tsarukyan. And in this video, I'm going to go through how I found out about this fight being off. I'm going to go through all the implications of this fight being made and how it affects the division. And then I'm going to give you my prediction at the end. So we'll do a bit of everything in this video. But usually I'm quick to the draw when it comes to this fight news. But I was at Costco and I got someone, actually a number of people, sending me this tweet. And even before I opened up my DMs, I was like, oh great, someone's just making up a fake rumor that something's happening in the main event, because you do see this every now and then on pay-per-views. But Red Corner MMA, pretty legit, plugged in very well. I knew as soon as I saw this tweet that Arman was actually out of the fight. So it says, you can see it there, according to our sources, Arman is out of the fight, and the UFC is working on a replacement with Renato Moicano among the options. And they ended up going with Moicano, and we find out that it was a back injury with Arman. Want to read Arman's statement here just real quick and kind of get some insight into him, because, man, what a bummer. Like, he seemed fine. Like, I don't know, I think at the time we're even doing this, let me know in the comments if we've heard any update, but how did this even happen? Did he sleep funny? Like, what happened? He says, UFC and UFC fans, I regret to inform everyone that the news that I had to pull out a 311 with a back injury is true. This was the hardest decision I ever had to make in my fighting career. I'd like to thank the UFC for understanding. Look forward to competing for my first championship in the future. Thank you for all your support. And even prior to this, Dana White doing a video basically confirming this as well. But man, do I feel bad for Arman. This was a great fight. This was one of my most anticipated fights. Even before this got booked, I was really intrigued to see this fight happen. So I hope the UFC still gives Arman his opportunity. Obviously, there's a bit of a lot of things going on in that division with Charles Oliveira was supposed to fight the winner of this, I'm assuming. We'll see how that affects things now, but do feel bad for Arman here, because, man, talk about bad luck and everything sort of happening there. So again, they go with Moicano as opposed to, I guess the only other option could have been Beneil Dariush. And I saw some people in my timeline being like, it should have been Dariush. Absolutely not. He's coming off 2 stoppage losses. Moicano's the one on the win streak. We got to reward people for winning fights. And I know that Dariush was supposed to fight Islam a number of years ago. I honestly feel very bad for Beneil Dariush, because he's not even going to fight on this card. That's the part that really is a huge bummer here, is that, he's once again not getting to fight, and he already had a big layoff coming into this fight. He's been dealing with injuries. So I definitely feel for Beneil, but under no circumstances should he have got that title shot. Moicano is the rightful person to take this title shot. Good for him. It's just crazy. This reminds me a lot of the whole situation with, the Khabib and Al Iaquinta fight from years ago, where it's supposed to be Khabib and Tony Ferguson. Then Max Holloway steps up. Max Holloway has an issue at the weigh-ins, and then they pull Al Iaquinta, who I think was supposed to fight Paul Felder or someone. I can't remember who it was on that card, but they ended up putting Iaquinta in the main event. Very similar circumstances, but in terms of, moving someone from the card up to the main event. But obviously very different in that Arman having a back injury here. So that's kind of how I took everything in. Again, I was at Costco, so I couldn't do a video right away. I don't think people would like that in the aisle if I'm talking about a new main event. But it should be a fun fight. I mean, Renato Moicano has been counted out more times than not, and he always seems to come through. Let's do a quick tail of the tape, and I'll kind of give you my prediction on this as well. So you can see there, Islam is 33, Renato Moicano is 35, 26-1, 25-1. 5'10" to 5'11", 70 to 72. So Moicano going to be a little bit bigger in this spot, which is actually kind of interesting, because Moicano used to fight at featherweight, if you remember back in the days. A pretty big guy for the division, but I think it goes without saying. And even look at the picks here: 89% Islam, 11% Moicano. I am going with Islam Makhachev in this fight. I was going with Renato Moicano against Dariush. I feel like his momentum and the way he's been performing certainly led to me picking him in that spot against Dariush. But Islam's a whole different animal, and again, we got to give full marks here to Islam for even taking this fight. I think that's something that's going to get lost in the shuffle here, is that Islam has so much to lose here. Like, Moicano has everything to gain. He was supposed to fight Dariush. I don't think anyone thought he would be fighting for a title unless he, won a few more fights. Like, obviously he beats Dariush. He's probably 1 or 2 fights away from a title shot there. Now that gets accelerated with Islam. Like, again, like, anything can happen in a fight. Like, I'm picking Islam, obviously. I think he wins, but we've seen strange stuff happen in fights. We've seen things that are just unordinary, stuff happening. Islam could get injured. Like, who knows? Like, anything can happen in a title opportunity like this. So you got to give Islam credit, because, he could have just gone to the UFC and said, no, let's try and reschedule this, or let's, I don't feel good about fighting a guy who's, lower in the rankings. But He stepped up and took the fight. So that's another thing that'll probably get lost in this. And on the flip side, there'll be people that probably won't give Islam credit for this win because of the fact that Moicano was ranked a lot lower. But if anything, I think he should get more credit because he's having to prepare for a guy. I mean, he's the champion, right? Like, he's having to prepare for a guy on, less or just over 24 hours notice. Like, it's pretty crazy that he's actually stepping up and taking this fight here. And Moicano, he has knockouts, he has submissions. Like, this guy can finish. So, like I said, anything can happen in a fight. So, credit to Islam for taking this opportunity. And, Moicano really is playing, his nickname's Money. He is really playing with house money here. Like, again, at his age and how deep that division is, I don't know, how far he was from a title shot and how he's getting it. And if he loses, he's always got the excuse of, well, I fought him on, sorry, I know it's more than 24 hours. Obviously, my math's never very good when it comes to adding things up. That's why I'm doing this instead of being a mathematician. But you can see there that, for Moicano, he's already got the built-in excuse that he took this on short notice with Islam. People will try and discredit this, but they shouldn't. I think this is very much a gangster move on Islam's end, taking this fight. Yes, it's an easier opponent to some degree, but also, again, Moicano has everything to gain here. Islam has everything to lose. I do predict Islam will win. I actually think Islam can finish Moicano. I could see maybe him finishing him in like the third or fourth round. I think they'll continue to take him down, implement that ground and pound. Moicano has taken a lot of damage in his career. That's one difference between him and Arman, is that Arman really, I think he's been finished maybe like one time in his career. And it was a long time ago. He's never been finished in the UFC. He's only lost decisions. He only had the two decision losses in the UFC against Islam and obviously Gamrot. But yeah, should be interesting. And then the other sort of wrinkle in this whole thing is that you've got Dustin Poirier, who just fought Islam, and Moicano trains at the same gym as him. So I'm sure there's a lot of insight for Moicano in this fight, and might be a little bit easier to prepare. But again, it's not like a foreign opponent here for Moicano. So again, I'm going to go Islam. I'll go third round finish for Islam. I think he'll just, he'll get the takedowns. Obviously, Moicano's good on the ground. We've seen the ground game. His submission defense, I don't think Moicano's been submitted before. Let me double check that. But his submission defense, I would imagine, is going to be good. Yeah, he's been submitted one time. And how long ago was that? When was that? Probably Brian Ortega, way back in 2017. So, I could see Islam possibly getting a submission here. I might lean a little bit more towards the ground and pound, but we'll see. Either way, I think Islam finishes this fight. But if Moicano does this is going to be one of the craziest, and I know Ariel had a whole tweet thread about Moicano, and I agree with a lot of it. Like, Moicano certainly seized every opportunity he's had to not only win fans over, but, turn his career around, right? This was a guy that, I remember at one point had lost a couple fights in a row. I remember the Aldo and Korean Zombie fight, gets finished in both those fights. I remember after the Korean Zombie fight, because I think Zombie hadn't fought that much back then. You're kind of thinking like, man, this guy just hasn't panned out. And ever since then, he's only had the two losses. He had the Fiziev loss, but then the RDA loss was a short notice fight. So since then, he's been on just an amazing roll, and it's awesome to see. So, it's good we're still going to get a main event. I definitely feel for the people who bought tickets, but at least Islam's still on the card. We're going to see him perform. And like I said, I'm going to go Islam third round finish. That could be either ground and pound or submission as well. But I do like Islam here. And I think I don't know if we have odds yet for this fight, but Islam will be a big favorite. Way more than, he was already minus 400 against Arman anyways. Like, he'll probably be minus 1,000 in this spot. So you'll definitely get, oh yeah, here we go. It's right here. Even on Tapology, minus 950. So yeah, it's, a lot of things favor Islam here, and I think he gets it done. And then as far as what's next, like, if Islam ends up winning like he's supposed to tomorrow night, I still think you give it to, we have to see what the injury's like for Arman, but I would almost do something where you give Charles the next shot and then Arman gets the winner. And if Islam wants to move up before that, that's fine. But because obviously there's talk of him, he's already kind of cleaned up the division. But I think either way, Arman should be able to fight for the title next. It's unfortunate what happened, but I don't think Arman should have to fight anyone else. And if he does, he's probably going to win anyway. So I would hope they do sort of a carousel where maybe Oliveira's next, because you don't want Oliveira having to wait even longer. I think you do Oliveira next, then Arman fights the winner of whoever that fights. Maybe that works out. Maybe it doesn't. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Was this the fight to make? Did you think Dariush deserved it? Instead, should they have rescheduled the fight? Again, as far as I know right now, we don't know the extent of the injury. So if Arman is going to be out a while, this probably is the better call to do the replacement fight. I do think it was a missed opportunity for the UFC not having Charles as the backup. Charles Oliveira, I don't know what the deal was there. Usually for big fights like this, they do have a backup. So I don't know what happened there, but that would have been the obvious thing to do. But honestly, with their first fight and how Islam dominated against Oliveira, it would be good to see both those guys have full camps for the rematch. So that's sort of the silver lining here. I think Oliveira fighting on short notice, maybe that's his last opportunity at fighting for a title. I don't know. So this is not a bad option, Islam and Moicano. It's certainly going to be entertaining. So follow me on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, @Lynch on Sports. My name is James Lynch. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.